All right. Hello, she stole my thunder. How you doing? So this is an impromptu live. Um, Supposed to be about drive, so kind of relating to my purpose-driven series because I went over the purpose part, but I didn't go over the drive part or the driven part. And given that I am a driver, I'm going to kind of split it up into actual driving, like on the road driving, and then like your drive, like what drives you through life or what drives you to, to your goals and whatnot. All right. So this is actually the first part or the first stream of this series. I call it the crossover. So this is kind of like my late night since I'm always working from one day to the next. So I was like, let me just go ahead and create a series where it's called the crossover, where I'm literally, live streaming from like one day to the next because I'm always working at nights anyway. Hopefully the sound quality is okay. I'm using my headset, but let's dive into it. So the crossover drive.
Put some respect on my name. You understand me? When y'all saying my name, put some respect on it.
So drive. So first part I'm going to dive into is actual driving. So on the road, actual driving. So take note, this is on the road, actual driving because unfortunately, you're more likely to perish in a car accident than say a plane crash or a boat incident or that kind of thing. And one reason why that is because competency. Um, Anybody can't just fly a plane. Anybody can't just steer a ship. Even though I've been on my grandfather's boat and been able to drive his boat, but anybody can't just fly a plane like you can drive a car. There's illegal people on the roads driving cars, and let's just say a lot of people be driving without insurance. Um, I know all too well about that because someone actually hit and run my car when it was parked. It was parked, and somebody still managed to hit my car. And I'm still dealing with the claims through USAA through that. So I'm actually very upset with that because I keep my car very clean, and that's one thing I'm very passionate about. However, drive. Now, some people, especially when you're young, you're a teenager, you look at people driving, you just see them driving, and you're like, oh, that's easy. I can do that. I can keep the thing straight, and I can do this, and I can do that, and I can steer it, and I can hit the brake pedal and the gas pedal. But when you first get in the car, then you start to get used to the sensitivity of the gas pedal. There's a lot of factors that you didn't think about. That sorry if you hear a lot of background noise. I'm in the gym, but there's a lot of factors you might not have thought about, even though you saw somebody doing it, and then you didn't realize what all it took to do that. And driving is one of those things, and you can actually relate this to a lot of things in life, which is why I'm actually doing this because I don't just talk to talk. I see a lot of similarities with a lot of things in life. And when it comes to driving, you have to have, if you want to do it effectively, and when I say effectively, I mean avoid serious accidents or incidences and stay alive and or make a living from it, you have to dedicate like the majority, I'd say probably 90+% of your focus should be specifically on driving. Not on the phone, not changing the radio station, not none of that. Driving. Actual, you are watching the road, all your mirrors, all the time, at all times. You have general understanding of where you are in space. You know the cars that are behind you. You see the cars in front of you, well in front of you, not just like the one right in front of you. I'm talking about you can see at least 50, 60 feet in front of you, or more, like a whole, probably like two or three, I'd say a couple hundred feet actually, depending on how fast you're driving. But the faster you drive, the more footage you should be able to see in front of you. Otherwise, you slow down. That's why you're supposed to slow down in certain rainstorms when visibility is low. You want to be able to at least see. I'd say, to be honest, if I can't see 30 feet, I'm inching. If I can't see what's in front of me at least 30 feet, like, because I was actually driving in fog the other night, I could see probably about 100 feet. And when I say I could see about 100 feet, I'm talking about even like a spotlight, a car light, like it was blocking out everything. Past 100 feet, you couldn't see anything. But I know the roads fairly well. But at the same time, I wasn't doing my usual 65 that I do on the highway. I was more so doing like maybe like 50, 55. I slowed down because my visibility was low. My chance of an incident was higher. Now, one thing they teach you in driving, which when you're in truck driving at least, that I don't agree with, however, it is what it is. Unfortunately, when I'm driving, even in it doesn't matter if I'm in my personal vehicle or my work vehicle. Whenever I'm driving, I'm impaired times two. Or I won't say impaired, but if I were to incur an infraction, they're going to times it by two, meaning I'm going to be double taxed or I'm going to be double punished if I screw up. Say if I get a speeding ticket, it might cost you $100. They're going to charge me $200 just because I'm a professional driver, because I have my CDL, because you know, I don't know why they do it even for the personal vehicle, but that's just what it is. I guess they're like, oh, you're a pro driver, you're supposed to be able to drive. It's kind of stupid if you ask me. Like I get it if it's in the work vehicle, I get that. But like if I'm in my personal vehicle, I mean, I should be able to be treated like a regular person. However, that's not the case. They'll times it by two because I'm a professional driver. It gives me more accountability. So now, even when I'm driving in my personal vehicle, now I'm more accountable for my actions while I'm driving outside of work. I have to actually, like, just because of my career path I've chosen, I actually have to tailor my personal life to how I do things, based off of what will happen if how it'll impair my professional life. So, like I said, if I get that speeding ticket, I get a ticket for parking in the wrong place. They find out I got a CDL, times it by two, and I might get points on my license, and it'll impact my ability or employment. So literally everything I do on the road literally ties into my job. Everything. Lord forbid, oh God, Lord forbid if I get a freaking DUI or DWI, especially if I don't have significant experience. Good luck trying to find a job. So you have to be responsible during work and outside of work. But going back to the original point, which was when you're a teenager, you're looking at someone drive, you think it's easy until you do it. Driving should be somewhat exhausting. It should be. Like even I was talking to somebody a couple months ago, and I was telling them, I was like, Jesus, like just driving, it's actually exhausting. And then they kind of get that look where it's like, what do you mean you're sitting in a car driving? I'm like, no, like the like if you're really driving like you're supposed to, it is extremely exhausting. Uh, background. Let me see. So I think it's a layover. So it shouldn't. Yeah, I was gonna say it shouldn't affect anything other than just what it looks like. But I'll see if I can. That's that background. Turn off the layover. There we go. Try not to touch the wrong things because I do have another stream coming up, and I don't want to give away too much before I do it. There we go. So back. So the layover is off. So. Uh, so it should be exhausting because of the mental part of it. I mean, yes, there's also wear and tear, like your arms and your shoulders. That's actually my wife. She's an occupational therapist, so she actually helps me with that. And I'm not gonna lie, my wrist did kind of flare up last weekend, which is one of the reasons why I wasn't really able to do much on the computer. Because apparently, when I got off work, my darn wrist wanted to act up, and I had to ice it pretty much almost the entire weekend. I might have to get, well, I'm not gonna say might. I'm gonna have to go get that looked at because I don't know. It's done that before, and I'm not really sure why it's doing that, but I'm gonna get it looked at. Because like right now, I can lift weights, and it's not gonna hurt me. But for some reason, when I got home that one last weekend, and I just went and tried to pick something up like the mouse or something, and yeah, so I'm gonna have to get that looked at. But that's not even really. I'm not even focusing on the physical. I'm talking about the mental strain because I have to maintain constant awareness of as much as I can see around my vehicle. Now, when I'm in my personal vehicle, I have more visibility because I can see behind me. When you're in a truck, you there's obvious blind spots. You for one, you can't see directly behind you, depending on what type of truck you're in. And if you're pulling a trailer, you can't see behind you whatsoever at all. You can just see through your mirrors, your side mirrors. You might be able to, if you're turning, you can kind of see behind you or who's behind you. But like if someone's directly behind you and you're driving straight, you can't see them at all. And that's and make a note of that because that's gonna come in. That's gonna be important later on. Now, in my personal vehicle, I am always aware of all the vehicles around me at all times, to my left, to my right, and behind me, and especially in front of me. Wherever my car is going, I'm looking at least two, maybe sometimes 300 feet in front of me at all times because I'm not looking for just impaired vehicles. I'm not looking for stuff that's in my way. I'm looking for potential stuff in my way. Like if I see a car and it's coming out of the driveway, is that car going to stop or is it going to continue to go and impede my progress as I'm going along? So I'm monitoring that car, but at the same time I'm monitoring the car, I'm also watching the cars to my left. I'm looking at the cars behind me. Are they paying attention? Because if I have to do an emergency maneuver, do I have the room to my left or right? Am I on a shoulder? If I go right, am I going to go all the way off the road or into a ditch? I have to be aware at all times. Can I swerve left or is there a car next to me? If I pump my brakes because there's a car next to me, is the person behind me paying attention? Are they going to plow right into the back of me, and then I lose control of the vehicle because there's no telling where my vehicle's going to go then. And because of that, I kind of make an adjustment. So if that person comes out into traffic, they block my way of travel. I can either begin the slowdown process early. So now the person behind me, it's not like I'm not. I could tap my brakes to slow down versus slamming on my brakes, and then they rear end me, and then I might go off the road, or I might go left, or I might go because usually when people rear end you, there's no telling where your car is going to go, especially if it's at a significant speed. So I'm able to be like, okay, if that car continues on into my pathway, I know I'm going to have to slow down. So let me start before I get there. Let me prepare. Sometimes instead of like I like to do this because it helps to break wear and tear. If I see something way ahead that's going to slow me down, if the left lane is open, if I have a spot to the left, I just get over. I don't even have to slow down. I keep on going about my business. And unfortunately, I've seen too many drivers, where something's in front of me in the right lane, and they will literally slow down to a stop or whatever, and then put the left turn signal on when they get there. Instead of, don't you see that car is driving real slow up there? There's a whole left lane, no cars. Just go ahead and get over and go around them. But no, they will literally drive up right to the where that slow car is. Then they'll put their turn signal on, and then they'll get over, and then they'll continue. And I'm just like, that's for one, it's inefficient because you have to possibly tap your brakes to slow down when you drove up on them. Then it slowed you down, and then eventually you still did the very same thing I would have done without slowing down, and got over and went around them. So you got to plan ahead, especially when driving. You have to be very aware. Now, there's going to be some certain things, like sometimes when something happens, like within a few feet of you, like somebody darts out in the traffic. You're not going to be able to really. do much there. Like, unless you're a very good driver, which I think I am a very good driver, but unless you're a very good driver, no one's going to be like, oh, you should have stopped. Like, a kid ran out in front of you, like 20 feet in front of you, and you're going like 50 miles per hour. Like, no, like, people are reasonable. They know, like, hey, why was the kid out there in the road to begin with? Like, you didn't have a chance. Now, if the kid was out there in the middle of the road and you see them 300 feet, and then people literally watching you, and you just plow, like, that's completely different. That's when, like, okay, now, like, come on now, what are you doing? Now, if the kid runs out in front of me like 10, 20 feet, I mean, a vehicle can't, no real, like, I don't even think some sports vehicles can stop that fast. Like, let's just be real. But I might be able to swerve. I might be able to do something where maybe I will hit another car, but the occupant in that car will at least be safe, and I don't run over I don't hit the child, which I know will not be safe. You see what I'm saying? So now it's like, okay, I can somewhat, and because I'm constantly aware, that moment that happens, the instant moment something happens, that kid runs out, I know, okay, left lane's open, let me swerve in that lane, or there's a car in that left lane, so I know I'm going to hit that car, but let me try to at least not take and then worst case scenario, if there's a car behind me, because I kind of hate this situation too. You might be driving, and people, you shouldn't be driving too close to a vehicle in front of you, especially if you can't see what's in front of them, because that vehicle might swerve in a situation like what I've given, and then now you're the next up. Now you're the next car up, and you hit whatever obstacle they swerve to avoid. So, like, in a situation like that, like, I might tap my brake real quick to try to get the driver behind me's attention if they're paying attention, and then get over or something. But it depends. I'll try to do what I can not to hit the kid, but I can only do what I can do. So driving should be somewhat mentally exhausting, especially if you do it for long periods of time, because you're maintaining constant awareness around you at all times. At all times. There's no breaks, there's no cuts, because guess what happens when you take a break? Accidents happen. The moment your awareness drops, even the slightest bit. There was actually a good seminar while I was watching where it wasn't a seminar, it was like a video, but you know how they do it on video. And they were explaining how certain incidents require a certain amount of attention. And the more you do while you're driving, some of your attention is taken up. Like, say you have 100% attention, and most of the time you're able to avoid most incidences. But every now and then there's a spike in risk. Like, say, like at this moment in time, there was an obstacle and it required 40% of your attention. Well, if you're maintaining around 80%, you're able to avoid that incident. However, if you're eating, you're talking on the phone, you're flipping through the radio, now your attention is at 30% on driving. Guess what happens? That obstacle, that spike that happens, that requires 40% of your attention, you're at 30%, and therefore, guess what? You get into an accident. And that vehicle, I'm gonna try to see if I can find it and link it in the description, because that vehicle actually explained it very well. It gave a nice visual of it. Comparing your attention compared to the risk, and how risks are constantly spiking when you're driving. There's always, because like there might be that vehicle that slows down in front of you, and your attention might be on the vehicle, and you see it and you slow down. However, if you're fiddling around, or if you, for a split second, you turn around and reach back in the back of your seat, guess what? Now you just rear-ended the vehicle because your attention dropped down to like 0%, because you were focused on reaching back, and you literally took your eyes off the road. Stuff happens, but it only takes that split second. That's why I've kind of trained myself to only do that kind of stuff at stoplights, or when I'm not moving. I try to get everything prepared before I even drive. Sometimes one of the key things of driving is you have everything prepared before you even start driving, because now you don't have to reach back in your seat to look for the GPS or grab that bottle of water or something, or you didn't properly stack something in the back seat and now it's toppled over and it's spilling all over your floor or something, and you don't really, you kind of for a moment you kind of forget you're driving. You're thinking about, oh crap, the soda's about to get all over my floor, and you try to pick up the damn soda bottle in the back seat, and then bam, incident happens. So I actually prepare before I'm driving. I'm like, okay, well, for one, I don't want soda spilling in my car. So food, drinks, I make sure they're secured. I make sure anything and everything that can spill or cause some sort of hazard. If there's something where it's like it's kind of loose there's a good chance it'll spill, I put it in my trunk. I'm not even going to deal with it in my cabin. I put it in my trunk. I do all this before I drive. Another part of driving, people don't. I know most people don't do this. In trucking, there's a thing called a pre-trip. There's a thing called a pre-trip. And the pre-trip, you're supposed to look your vehicle over before you start driving. You're supposed to check the tires, make sure they're good, ready to go. Make sure you don't have no nails or anything like that, no scarring on the walls. You're supposed to check all your engine fluid and everything. It's supposed to help you make sure you have proper maintenance on the vehicle. It's supposed to help make sure your vehicle stays up to date with whatever maintenance might be required. Like maybe you notice the steering wheel's a little fidgety and you check the little steering wheel thing and you notice it's been leaking fluid or something. That's a risk for an accident because now you know to go get it fixed before you hop in the vehicle and then you end up one of those people like, oh, my steering went out. And then you get into an accident because you didn't properly check your vehicle. Now, I know most people don't do this on their personal vehicle. I know because I'm a trucker and I don't do it. I do it every now and then, maybe like once a week or once a month. I do it on a regular, like just to kind of make sure my car is up to par. But when I'm trucking, like when you're like my actual truck, the semi tractor trailer, you're supposed to check before each trip. Before you hit that road, you do a pre-trip. You do a pre-trip, check, make sure everything's good to go. Check to make sure nobody was messing around with the vehicles because people are messy out here. Some people, they'll put nails in front of your wheels to try to sabotage you before you leave. So sometimes I'll check in front of my tires just to make sure nobody messed with anything. Sometimes they'll loosen up your lug nuts just to mess. I'm telling you, there of course there's always bad people out here. There's always going to be bad people. I mean, that's just what it is. But some people are very screwed up, and they will definitely do this. And the pre-trip helps, I guess, prevent any serious incidents from happening. Because most of the time, I could spot the nail. I could check, be like, okay, there's a nail. Somebody put a nail there, or my lug nut looks a little loose. I wonder how that happened. So let me tighten that up real quick. Or somebody, Lord forbid, if somebody like cuts your brake line or something. I mean, obviously there's going to be brake fluid. You could see it. You're going to see it. But at the same time, that's a hazard. Like you don't have no brakes when you're driving. So you check your stuff. That's what you're supposed to do. Like I said, there are people that will try to sabotage you. And I hope you're kind of seeing the parallel of why this can relate to life. How actual driving can relate to you in your real world situations. And how sometimes the most important thing about driving is before you actually drive, doing your pre-trip, making sure everything in your car is secure. You know where you're going, because who the hell jumps in their car and don't know where the hell you're going? You have a route. You have a plan for something. You know the streets. If you don't know the streets, then I'm in high alert. Like if I'm on a street that I know I don't know, that's when like all my attention, like absolutely all my attention is on the road. Because one, I'm learning the road itself. So that way, when I go back down that way, I know exactly where everything is. And then at the same time, it kind of helps me because I'm making a mental map. So if something does happen, I know, okay, there's a ditch over there. It's like muscle memory where it's like, I know instantly versus having to actually see what's over there. Like if I were to drive, I hate those roads where it's like 2-lane roads. The speed limit's like 50. It's always in the country, but it's like the 2-lane roads. There's one lane going this way, going north or south, and then going north, and then the other road's going south, and like it's on that one narrow little road. Both of y'all traveling like 50, 60 miles per hour. very dangerous because let's just be real. If the person going the opposite way just swerves into your lane, like I mean, they cross that double yellow line, you're pretty much done. And I hate those roads, but at the same time, I learned those roads because I know certain parts of the roads I can actually swerve to the right, and there is a gravel or something over there where I know if a vehicle does do that, I know, okay, I'm at this part of the road. I know there's no ditch over there. I can actually swerve off the road and then potentially, regather and get back on the road. Because mind you, if it happens suddenly, I'm going to have to, like, it's random now. I don't know whether or not I can swerve. I don't know whether or not what the best, maneuver is. Sometimes I might have to swerve all the way over to the left because sometimes they might swerve into my lane. I can't go right because there's a drop off, but I know there's something over to the left where I might be able to swerve all the way over to the left lane. Now, I don't recommend that because I believe they say like sometimes people that do swerve, they usually swerve back into their own lane. But, you never know. But yeah, sometimes the most important thing about driving is before you actually even hit the road, you got to plan everything out. And then once you're on the road, it's all about execution. It's all about being aware for the obstacles. I know I'm going from point A to B. I know the roads, I know the streets, but between point A and B, between and somewhere in those streets, there's a potential obstacle. There's always an obstacle, and every single day it's different. Every single day. So every single day I have to maintain the same high level of awareness. And how this relates to real life. I know some of y'all go to work each and every day, and every time you go to work, it's the same thing over and over again. You get comfortable because it's the same thing over and over again. Maybe your performance takes a little dip because you know what you can and can't get away with. You don't maintain that same level of productivity. And that's normal. That's human. That actually is what humans naturally do. Actually, I remember uh let me go to my settings. Story time. So I remember I was looking at Ford. And when I say Ford, I mean actual Ford, like Henry Ford. And when he was building the Model T, or one of those early models, I think it was the Model T. And the way he perfected it was one of the things with his employees because he had implemented. I don't believe he. I don't think he pioneered it in America. I mean, I think in America he did for automobiles, but I do believe the assembly line was already kind of being used in other industries or other countries. But he created the assembly line to make the Model T to make it cheaper for everybody, and everybody knows. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with that through history class. But one of the things he had to do with his employees was he had to switch things up because he noticed one of the hurdles he had to overcome was his retention of his employees. And if you're not familiar with an assembly line, you're pretty much sitting in line next to somebody or someone has a task, and you're doing the exact same task over and over and over and over again. And what he noticed was the longer that person did the task, there was like a if you look at a graph, it goes up and then it kind of plateaus and then it dips down. And what happens is they get better at doing the job when they learn it, and then once they learn the job, it gets so repetitive, they get bored with it, then their productivity goes down, and then they end up quitting or they get fired because they're doing the same thing over and over and over again, and it gets boring. It gets really boring to them, and they might mess up and mess something up on the assembly line because they lost focus because they were thinking about something at home versus actually doing their job. And it wasn't just a few people. He noticed it was darn near all of his employees. So what he actually did was he created tasks, like dumb little tasks, like, hey, go pick this bucket up and go take it over there. Like he would do stuff where it would take them away from that task, so they weren't just doing the same thing over and over again. Sometimes it was like like I said, it was stuff that didn't make sense. Like he didn't need them to do it, but he knew he needed to get them away from that repetitive task just to kind of reset them. And then usually, I believe what it was, he switched them up in the assembly line and got them to learn a different task. But that's how when you think about driving, you do it, especially if you're one of those states like myself. I'm in North Carolina where you pretty much drive everywhere, to the grocery store, everywhere. It's repetitive, same thing over and over and over again, and then you start to use less and less focus. You start to become less aware because you think you know everything. You know the streets very well, but like I said, even though you know the streets well, you're going down the same streets over and over and over again. You're doing the same turns. You're doing the same everything else. There's always random obstacles, and you might take your mind off the road because you're thinking about something at home. You're taking your mind off the road, and then an incident happens. So you got to focus. There's a lot of focus, a lot of mental strain, because you literally have to make yourself not get to that state of boredom, and you always have to maintain that constant level of awareness. Now, the second part of this, the crossover, is I'm going to dip into part two of this one is going to be your drive. So your what drives you in life in general. So now I did part one, which is on actual driving, driving your personal vehicle, that kind of thing. Now, part two is actually going to be on your personal drive, like what drives you to your purpose, to your goals. Like, why do you do what you do in life? What drives you? And I believe this is very important. So I'm going to end this part one right here, and I'm going to come back probably in 2 hours, because mind you, this is the crossover. So, this is Saturday night, Sunday morning. So I might come back early Sunday morning, probably around, I'll set the time, probably around 2:30 a.m. And then if you're not going to be up that late, that's okay. You can rewatch the replay. But I'll be back in a few hours. I'll catch you in part two, crossover drive. お前はもう死んでいる。